right, guys, today we are going to be adding color to our ornaments. We're going to be talking about color and value and form. So color, of course, we're going to be talking about analogous colors today. Value is lights and darks. So we've kind of already added value with our cross hatching. And form is to show something is three-dimensional. So we have also done that with our cross hatching and our highlights, but we're also going to do that with some shading with our colors as well. So first thing I want to talk about is analogous colors. So analogous colors is a group of colors. It's usually about 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So analogous colors to yellow would be orange and green. Analogous colors to blue would be purple and green. Analogous colors to red, orange, and purple, right? So colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Now I have our paints here. We have our warm colors on this tray, our cool colors on this tray. This tray also has a couple of our neutral colors. We're not going to use those today, our brown and our black. We're just going to stick to our warm and cool colors, and we'll use our color wheel to kind of help us out. So what we're going to do, I'll start off with a light color so you can kind of see a dramatic difference. I'm going to start with yellow. I'm of course going to, you guys know how to use watercolors, get a little puddle in there and stir it around so I get a nice bright color. I don't want to paint that highlight because that highlight should stay white in all of my ornaments. But I'm going to be very careful that I'm only painting the one ornament that I'm working on right now, staying inside those lines. Okay, so that looks great so far. Now I need to use my color wheel to figure out what color I should use for my shading. So I could go either way. I could go green or orange. I think I'm going to kind of go the orange route for my shading. I think that's more of a natural shade color than, I think orange is more of a natural shade color to yellow than green. So I have a couple orange here, I have true orange, and then I have like a red orange. I think I'm going to go with the true orange, and I'm trying to work somewhat quickly because I want to get this shading on here before my yellow paint dries, so then they kind of blend in well with each other. So I'm going to put this on here in the same places where my cross hatching is. And be careful not to mix your paints in the tray. We don't want to get the paints in here dirty. So if you need to dip back in, just clean your brush before you do so. But I think that looks really great. Just kind of blending that yellow in with that orange. So now I can do a new color. So maybe I'll do orange now. And I'll try to just show you kind of how I'm shading a few different colors before I let you go and time lapse this. Please make sure that you're really mixing that little puddle of water in with your paint, because that's how you get these really nice bright colors. You can see I'm first painting the entire ornament. Now I'm going to my color wheel, and colors I can use, or colors that are analogous to yellow, colors that are analogous to orange are yellow and red. But it makes sense if I'm doing a shadow to do a darker color, so I'm going to go with red instead of yellow, because a shadow shouldn't be a lighter color, right? It should be a darker color. So again, I have red, orange, or I have true red. I'm going to go with true red just so my shadow is obviously a shadow. I think the red orange might just be a little too close to the same color. Now I'm going to put that where my cross hatching is, and just kind of like on the bottom side of my ornament. I like to kind of rinse my brush off and then use a clean brush to kind of blend those two colors in. That's kind of my little trick anyway. Okay, let's switch to some cool colors. So let's do a green ornament. Kind of wanting to do this huge one over here. And probably don't do what I'm doing and mix your colors over your paper because you end up getting splatters everywhere. Always making sure not to paint that highlight, and we're also going to come back and paint those little rectangles of our hooks a little later because those are all going to be the same color, so we'll come back to that. All right, so our analogous colors to green are yellow and blue. The obvious shade color should be blue because yellow is lighter than green, so we don't want to use yellow as a shadow. So we'll use blue as a shadow, and we have a few different kinds of blues here. We have this kind of turquoise blue, and then we have like a deeper blue. Since this green is kind of a more foresty green, I think the turquoise blue might be a little too light, so I'm gonna do this darker blue. I think that might be a better shadow color. Okay, so I've kind of laid down my shadow. Now I'm gonna rinse my brush. And again, you guys can tell I'm working somewhat quickly. So my green was still wet when I went and added my blue. And now I'm just kind of blending those two colors together. Now you can see there's several of these colors that all kind of look the same when they're in the pan. What I did was I got a little scrap piece of paper just to kind of see which colors are which. So I can see this one's kind of a blue, violet. You can see I've already done this right here, but I'm just showing it to you. This one's kind of a true violet. And then this one is more of a red, violet, almost pink, okay? So that'll kind of help you with your, which color should be in your shadows. So I'm thinking my blue violet, I'm kind of thinking this color would be a great shadow color for my blue violet and for my red violet. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. And you can always practice on your little scrap paper as well, just to kind of see if a color would be a good shadow color for whatever color you're working with right now. So I kind of liked that I tested those out because now I know that the violet is the darkest of all of those. So that would be the perfect one to use as my shadow. And I also like that if my original color is still a little wet, it kind of does some of the work of blending for you, just because when they're both wet, the colors just kind of naturally blend together. Okay, I'm gonna do one more for you before I time lapse. I'm gonna try out this little red violet. Almost pink, like I said. Where should I put it? Maybe right here. So there we go. And so you can see kind of how I've used the same violet color for both for both of these. Now, I actually forgot, I haven't done a red one yet. A red one is a little bit interesting because to do a shadow on a red, let's go back to our color wheel. To do a shadow on the red, you need to use a violet. So you actually have to use colors from both the warm and the cool color pans. So I'm gonna, or trays, I guess, the warm and the cool color trays. Oops. I let a little drip happen right here, so I guess that's where it's gonna be. Again, try not to mix your colors over your paper like I'm having to do for the video, because then you just get drips everywhere. So now that I've tested out that red violet, I think I've decided that this might be a little too light, a little too pinky to be a good shadow for the red. So I think again, I'm gonna use that true violet color, that true purple. So you can see the purple is actually a great shadow for several of these. All right, guys, I feel like I've shown you enough. Now what I think I'm gonna do is I'll time lapse this. Instead of doing one color at a time like I was doing to show you, I think it would probably be a little bit easier to kind of pick a few different ones to paint green and then kind of do all your green ones and then switch colors, just so you're not, you know, jumping all over the place. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'll time lapse this so you can see how I finish this up, and then we'll come back to do our little hooks. Okay, this is something to be aware of. I just painted that one. So it's still just wet enough that it's oozing blue into this orange. So try to be aware of that. Maybe try not to paint two right next to each other right after each other. Or you could just make sure you're doing a really great job of staying in your lines and being super neat. So, yeah. Making sure you don't have huge puddles of paint is also helpful. All right, so you can see I have finished all of these. Now the last thing I need to do is go in and paint my little square parts of my, or rectangular parts of my hook. I'm gonna try to keep them kind of like a goldy yellow. So I'm gonna first paint with yellow, and then I'll just kind of add like a little bit of shading to make it a little more goldy with some orange. All right, guys, there are our finished ornaments. I think they turned out so cool. I love how bright and colorful they are. I love how many elements of art we worked with. We worked with shape, we worked with color, we worked with value, form, space. I think these just turned out so cool, and I really can't wait to see how yours turned out.